Hello and welcome to this week's edition of SouthCoast End Zone. I'm Tim Weisberg.
I'm Laurie Loss.
And with us we have our new edition.
Hi, I'm Brendan Curie. I'm a new guy here first day and excited to cover some South Coast football coming from southeastern Minnesota. So shout out to the Big Nine and the Gopher conferences out there.
So first day here and they throw you into the web show.
Exactly, yeah. They didn't even tell me to do my hair or anything. So hopefully
right.
This is my good side.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
People are going to start to think like you're sandwiched between a couple of twins here.
It's true.
Well, I said we could make the joke that this is Buddy Thomas, maybe 30 or 40 years younger.
Yes.
It depends. How do you feel about
30 or 40 years less of
Yeah.
high school football knowledge around here. So.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, that's fine because you'll learn quick, especially being out this season. This is a season of kind of the haves and the have-nots, really, and we saw that in play last week. And Laurie will give us kind of a recap of what happened last week with her first and goal.
Okay, first and goal. First down, on the first snap of the game, Weston Cohen raced down the field 68 yards for a touchdown. He finished with 11 carries for 133 yards, but Apponequet suffered its first loss of the season. Second down, backup quarterback Blaine Almeida helped Dartmouth rally from a 14-0 deficit to knock off previously undefeated Apponequet. Almeida completed 11 passes for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. Third down, Jake Pringle not only completed 13 passes for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, he punched in the winning touchdown on a 1-yard quarterback keeper in overtime to give Old Colony its first win over West Bridgewater since 2001. Fourth down, Matt Golden scored on a 25-yard scamper midway through the fourth quarter, and Bishop Stang's defense made some big stops to give the Spartans their first win over Durfee since 1995. And getting into the end zone as the player of the week, Richie Phillips carried the ball 12 times for 146 yards, scoring on runs of 33, 30, and 46 yards, while also returning a fumble 98 yards for another touchdown to keep Old Rochester undefeated at 4-0.
I have to say, that's probably the least surprising player of the week in a while. I mean, not that they're usually surprises, but I knew Friday night. I was like, player of the week right there.
Well, I kind of figured, he had a huge game, but then at the same time with Bishop Stang getting its first win over Durfee in forever and Old Colony beating West Bridgewater in, a long time, I kind of thought, well, maybe if somebody from either one of those games had a huge performance.
4 touchdowns. It's hard to argue 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns. That's impressive.
Although what Jake Pringle did was pretty impressive, too.
Yes.
So, well, why don't we get right into this week's action? Oh, before we do, we should probably plug the social media.
Yes.
We want people to tweet us at SC_varsity and follow us on Facebook, SouthCoastVarsity.com on Facebook. And I saw some tweets were flying around last Friday night. I'm in here, and I'm on the Twitter machine there, too. And I'm trying to retweet things, and you're retweeting things, and I'm sure that there's some confusion when you're like, wait, I didn't tweet that.
Well, it's funny because sometimes people will be asking me for scores and different things, and then I'll try and track down a score if it's from a game that I'm not at, and then I'll tweet it, and then you'll be like, whoa, I already posted that, and There's so much going on.
Like when I was like, hey, Self, we already posted that, Self.
Yes.
I didn't know if you knew what I meant there, but...
No, I got it, but, sometimes when you're covering a game, and, and you're taking scores from other games, it can be a little...
Right.
A little demanding there, but at the same time, we want you to be tweeting us. If you want to know a score and we haven't had an update from that game, make sure you message us, and if we're not at that game, we'll find out what's going on. I know Derek doesn't tweet, and Buddy
we'll
doesn't.
Fix that. Not Buddy. We can't do anything about
there's
that.
nothing we can do about Buddy, but
right.
so we're kind of
replace him. We could do that.
That's not what's going on.
That's not happening.
We love you.
Not anytime soon.
Buddy. We love you.
Yes, Buddy, we definitely love you, and we're not replacing you. But yeah, so keep sending us the tweets. We want photos. I know we're gonna talk about Vine again. We haven't set it up this week. Maybe next week. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But yeah.
I started doing the Instagram too, personally. So maybe we can start working that in.
Yeah, I do it personally too. I think we're gonna start up an account. Hopefully, maybe this week. Maybe for Friday Night Football, we can have it and we can take some photos. I know I usually try and get photos of all the cheerleaders when I'm at the games. And put them, on Twitter and Facebook and that kind of stuff.
The cool thing about Twitter this past Friday is we were able to we can take you kind of beyond just the South Coast games that we're covering and give you the information kind of across the board. And this week, for the 4th week in a row, every week this season now, the number 1 consensus team in the state has gotten knocked off. And this week it was Varian
Barnstable.
losing to Barnstable.
Mm-hmm.
So
And we'll be talking about that when we preview New
we'll
Bedford.
be talking about Barnstable for sure this week. Well, why don't we jump right into the games for this week? We'll start on Friday night. Our first game is Martha's Vineyard at Bishop Stang. That's a 6 p.m. game because, the boat has to leave at a certain time. So that's one of the things you'll learn.
Yeah,
It's an
coming
island,
from
Martha's
Martha's
Yeah,
Vineyard.
no,
Island.
I'm from New Hampshire. I'm from New England originally, so
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I know a
Good.
little bit about my Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and I watched Wings growing up. Don't worry.
So, Bishop Stang, they had that win last week.
Yeah.
An 8-0 win over Durfee, and Durfe'd had their number for a number of years. But I mean, is Durfee also a good enough team for them to really?
Yeah, well, Durfee hasn't won yet this year, and I know Buddy kept calling me when I was at the Apponequet Dartmouth game, and he kept after each quarter 0-0, 0-0, 0-0. I'm like, Buddy, are you going to be there till 2:00 in the morning? Like, is anybody ever going to score?
You were almost there to your game till 2:00.
Yeah, it was
that's,
pretty.
That's a whole other story.
It was pretty late. But Bishop Stang ended up getting a safety, and then Matt Golden, scored on that touchdown, and that pushed them over the top. And the defense really made some huge plays in that game to stop Durfee. I think they did move the ball. I think they had about 100 yards through the air, another 80 on the ground. But every time they got close to scoring, Stang's defense pretty much clamped down on them, and that's great going into their EAC opener. They're 2-1, which last year when we looked at the team, coming into this year, they graduated Charlie McKeeman, who's over at University of Rhode Island, and he was there. He was like, I don't know if he had 90% of their points last year or something like that, and he's gone. They only won, I think, one game last year. You figure coming into this year, when you graduate that, what are you going to have? But really, Matt Golden, he's stepped up. He's a sophomore quarterback, and they're facing a Vineyarders team that's 1-3. They've lost some big games. Last week they ended up losing to Bishop Feehan, which I feel like everyone always says Feehan's good every year.
Mm-hmm.
Feehan I don't think is as good
They're
as
a little bit,
they're down
this year.
Yeah, it was a 9-6 win over Feehan, and it was in overtime. Actually, it was I think it was triple. Let me see on here. It was triple overtime in that game. It was 0-0 at the end of regulation, and then both teams scored. In the first overtime, and then it ended up going to 3 overtimes, and then they,
Then it went to a shootout.
Yeah, it's like I wonder what time this game must have ended, because it was a crazy game. But the Vineyarders, they did have a chance to actually win the game, in regulation, and they missed a field goal, right before the first overtime. And the lone touchdown came on a 6-yard pass from Mike Mussel to Joe Turney. So, those are two of the guys that you're probably going to hear this coming week against Bishop Stang. But in their 3 losses, the Vineyarders have been outscored 90-47. So this is a team that, Stang, granted they didn't score a lot last week, but
now their offense can maybe come together.
Yeah, come together. And for them,
30 a game. Can give them 30 a game.
Yeah. So against, this is their EAC opener, so it's really kind of a time where, if they want to beat the Coils, if they want to beat, Bishop Feehan, Somerset Berkeley, like, it would be nice to get the win over Martha's Vineyard, to start the EAC kind of slate of schedules. So.
All right, so that is Martha's Vineyard at Bishop Stang, 6 p.m. on Friday night. Let's get to the 7 o'clock games now. We have Case at Wareham, and
yeah.
Normally I try to defend the Vikings a little bit here, but they're looking rough.
Well, this is funny because this is going to be the game that
yes.
Brendan is going to.
My introduction here. So.
And two winless teams when they face each other 4 weeks into the season. Wareham only has the 3 losses because they have the bye. You got to think something's going to give here.
Well, somebody's going to win the game.
Yeah, well, obviously, but it's like both teams have struggled. Case graduated Furtado from last year. He was kind of like their go-to everything. And we were just talking about this. Brendan doesn't know a lot about the area sports.
A little bit, but yeah.
But that Wareham graduated.
16 seniors. I read that. So yeah, I know the program that built up for the last 3 years, and those kids kind of came through the program, started as sophomores, and now, from what I understand, it's kind of a new group of kids. It's probably a rebuilding year, and hopefully these kids can learn some lessons on the field, some tough lessons on the field this year, and then carry those over and bring that experience back. And
by any chance, is either of your great-great-grandfathers still with us?
No.
Because if they were, you would want to call them and ask them about the offense that Wareham runs.
Right.
They run the single wing offense, which
okay.
people haven't seen.
Yeah.
since they realized
back
that
in the 50s there.
you can actually have two wings.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why do we have one? We can have two, but that's what they're implementing. So that's part of the struggles I think they've had. So
3 yards in a cloud of dust sometimes. Or,
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, this past week against Dighton Rehoboth, they gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown, a punt return.
Not
for
just
a
a
touchdown.
kickoff return.
The
opening kickoff.
Yes, the opening kickoff return. So right out of the gates, I mean, they were already, in a hole. They've been outscored in their 3 losses this season, 127-32. That's tough. That's really tough. But on the flip side, Case is 0-4. They've been outscored 158-48. So it's not much better, for Case. And really, I mean, this is not to say it's an even matchup, but I mean, I don't even know who I'm going to pick, to win this game.
Well,
I kind of feel like, with Wareham struggling this year, rebuilding year, this is a game where, they're going to be in it. The Vikings are going to be in this game.
Dan Nault said to me before the season that the Vikings were going to take their lumps early in the season, that they expected to have some struggles in the early going, and they're targeting, games like this to help get these young guys, a little bit more into the win column. So I think that they've got a good chance with this one. They've got a good chance later on in the season against Fairhaven, and that might be it. And I think they know that going in. I think they know that they're building not for this year, but for what will happen in a couple of years.
Yeah, and they're a pretty young team. They only have a few seniors, so it's not like, there's a big senior class. They're, what is it, mostly juniors and sophomores, I think.
You're right. They have like one returning varsity player from last year, playing a different position.
Yes.
So. Yeah, so
that
that
nice
is
for those kids to get a win too.
Yeah.
It keeps kids interested. It
Yeah.
keeps them excited.
right.
Keeps them coming into practice with the right attitude. So,
And
kids to get one on the win column can do more than just a number.
Yeah.
I got a feeling, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but there was a story in Sunday's paper about Wareham sports and the numbers being down, and the fact that all of the sports teams have one win combined. I think that's still the case.
As far as I know, yeah.
So I think that you might see some extra motivation out of the kids. I've been hearing some rumblings, being a Wareham guy, I've been hearing some rumblings around town that, they're going to make sure that the story in Sunday's paper is a little bit different this week.
Yes.
Or at least Saturday's paper.
I'll be happy to write it.
There you go. So that is Case at Wareham, 7 p.m. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go out of order.
Yeah,
I
you
was
went
just
out.
reading
You're
out of
throwing
the
us for a loop over here. It's okay.
So next we'll talk about Barnstable at New Bedford. That's a 7 p.m. game, and we mentioned Barnstable earlier in the show, knocking off the number 1 team, Zavarian, last week. And I gotta say, if you're the Whalers, the one thing that you can, thank the football scheduling gods for is that this game is at New Bedford and not at Barnstable, where the Red Raiders are pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah, I drove to Barnstable a couple of years ago. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before for Dartmouth. And I think at that point Dartmouth was undefeated on the season. They were like 4-0, 5-0. And I drove there and they lost like 40-0. And I remember after the game, Rick White said to me, he said, "Laurie, he said, I'm sorry you had to drive this far to see the game." But it is a good thing that it's at New Bedford. It's their first Friday night game, at home. They played, their other games this season at home on Saturdays. So it'll be the first time that they're under the lights. But it's going to be tough. I mean, Barnstable knocked off Zavarian on a field goal by Pacheco, 32 yards, to clinch the win. And it's funny, I mean, not to kind of switch gears and talk about the state, but every week the top-seeded team for the whole season has been knocked off. Bridgewater Raynham, I think we were talking about BR last week, they knocked off, back-to-back weeks. What was it? It was Duxbury and was it St. John's? Or was the other team?
Yeah, I think it was the other way around.
Yeah,
It was
St. John's.
and Duxbury.
Yeah, so there's no real team that's kind of gotten to the top and stayed there, and Barnstable, for the last, handful of years, they've always been kind of that top team, and especially in the Old Colony League, it seems like it's, even though, Bridgewater Raynham's there too, and Dartmouth, it seems like it's always, Barnstable's kind of that front runner up there too.
Great quote from one of the other writers. I think it might have been a Cape Cod Times Twitter feed. I saw it on last Friday, but I forget if it was the coach or one of the players. But he said that when you go over the bridge, it's a whole different world, and that's definitely the case for Barnstable with the way that they've been playing against teams. And New Bedford, I mean, last week they kind of crashed back to earth a little bit after the way that they've been playing the last couple of weeks. And Cam Costa, Brendan Costa, he, this freshman quarterback, he came out, had a huge game 2 weeks ago,
had over 100 yards passing. They had it between him and was it Chandler DeBras? Was it? And and he was they switched between the two quarterbacks and had kind of like a two-headed monster. And this past week, Bridgewater Raynham really kept Costa in check. I think he had 41 passing yards. He had an interception, and it just they had some turnovers. They got shut out, which there's not too many times where New Bedford plays in a game and they're going to get shut out.
Right.
Even though it was against Bridgewater Raynham, one of the top teams in the state, usually they're going to get on the scoreboard. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back, especially against such a quality opponent like Barnstable. And Barnstable, even though they have two wins, their 2 wins are combined by 8 points, 8 total.
Right.
So it's it's tough to really kind of pinpoint this game, but I mean Barnstable clearly is the favorite, even though it's at New Bedford. But I figure New Bedford's definitely going to get on the scoreboard in this game, unlike last week.
I got a feeling Whalers got this.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Whalers got this.
Why? Why do you?
I don't know. I just think that they're going to catch Barnstable off guard. Barnstable's going to still
might.
be running on that high from last week, and I think that New Bedford's going to sneak up on them. I think that with another week, and now that Costa's kind of had that game, where he's gotten that little bit of a reality check, like, hey, rookie, I think now they'll have a better understanding, and I'm sure that Coach Golden will have the best plan of attack and how to use both DeBras and Costa. And Nunes, I think Nunes is going to come up huge.
Yeah, I think that even more so than just the passing yards for Costa was they only had 76 rushing yards. I mean, I know New Bedford likes to throw the ball, but especially when you're going against teams like as you'll see Bridgewater Raynham, Barnstable's, these teams have great offenses. You kind of have to control the clock, and keep them off the field. And I think that will probably tell more of what what New Bedford can do this week if they can, control the clock.
Well, I may be wrong, but haven't they been using, DeBras is more of a running quarterback and Costa is more of a throwing quarterback? So maybe that's the issue. Maybe the issue wasn't so much with Costa, but maybe it was they couldn't get the ground game going with DeBras. So, I'm sure that they'll find a way to make that happen, and I'm going to predict a New Bedford win.
Okay.
Not to put pressure on them, just saying. I don't know. I've been making picks on the radio station website, and I haven't even bothered to check to see how they go.
Oh, you should see. You should see what how you're doing.
I don't keep track.
I'm still beating Buddy.
I was giving you kind of the opening there to
Yes, I'm still beating Buddy.
So that is Barnstable at New Bedford, 7 p.m. on Friday. Also 7 p.m. on Friday, Durfee at Dartmouth. And hey, thanks for playing, Hilltoppers.
Yeah, 0-3 going into this game. They didn't score at all last week against Bishop Stang. And Stang beat them for the first time since, 90s? I think it's going to be 0-4.
Yeah, I don't think you can stop Dartmouth in this game after what happened in last week's game.
Yeah, and I was at last week's game, and I mean it was a great game. It lasted it felt like 10 hours. It was over. I was out of there by 10, but Apponequet came out, scored on the first play from scrimmage. Before you knew it, Dartmouth was down 14-0. Their top running back, Chris Martin, hurt his ankle, which we don't have an update on that. I think Buddy's gonna call over there and see what the update was. So you're without your best running back. You're down 14-0. What are you gonna do? Let me put my backup quarterback in there, because Matt Boparlin, which I think I just said his name right for the first time ever.
Awesome.
He's mostly just kind of he's mostly a running quarterback. I mean, he does throw the ball a little bit, but he's not the guy that you want to throw 10, 20, 30 pass. You don't want to air it out with him. So you put Blaine Almeida, who is a throwing quarterback, in the game, and this kid leads them on four scoring drives. They rally. He completes 13 passes, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, both to Tim Smith. They come back. They knock off previously undefeated Apponequet. It's wow. I talked to the kid after the game. I'm like, did you think when you woke up this morning you were gonna be put into the game and lead the team back? And he was like, well, no, but now that I think of it, I've always kind of dreamt that I would, be put in that position. So, I mean, it's just a great story for Dartmouth. I don't know what they're going to do this week. I guess it depends on Martin, and it's really going to depend, too, on Tim Smith because he's been playing tight end. He's been he was their star running back last year, or, one of his top ones. He tore his ACL. He's come back from surgery, and they've been, he's been playing on offense the last couple weeks, but I think he had 2 carries the other day, I think he's had 2 carries all season, so he's mostly playing tight end and on defense. So
I think I saw Bo Parlin make his debut last season against Durfee.
Yeah.
And I think that game was at Durfee, and he did pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's a great quarterback. I mean, and like they do a lot of misdirection when he's in there, and it's like sometimes I have to look again to see who has the ball, and then I'm like, oh, Matt's got the ball. It's like they kind of catch you off guard a little bit. So I think either way, whatever they decide to go with, I mean, I don't think Durfee's going to have an answer.
I think that win last week over Pontiac was like the SouthCoast version of Barnstable knocking off Severian. They were kind of defeating the team that was kind of the consensus number 1 around here, just for the way that they'd been winning.
Yeah.
And for the weapons that they had. So now that they've, Dartmouth's kind of reestablished themselves on the scene, they got to keep that going.
Yeah, and they will. I mean, Durfee was held to 92 rushing yards last week. And their quarterback, Oliveira, he did have 15 passes for 106 yards, but they didn't get in the end zone at all. Staying held him out of the end zone. So it'll be interesting to see, Durfee, a team that it's in the Big 3. Like I think I was telling you earlier, Big 3 is with Brockton and New Bedford and Durfee. Just, how that program kind of, can build back up. It seems like it's for the last few, I think as long as I've been here.
Been a long time.
And it's like.
And even before.
It's hard to break that cycle sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Sometimes it is.
Well, I think it's actually, if you want to look at it, it's a similar situation to what you see with Wareham.
Yeah.
Where a lot of those Fall River kids go to Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them go to Bishop Connolly.
Yeah.
And you see Bishop Connolly being a team that does really well. You see Diamond doing really well within their conference, and then Durfee,
Yeah.
They get some kids that might not be the cream of the crop athletes and are just playing for the sake of playing, and you see the results. So that's just my guess. And also, I heard that Eddie Money completely blew his show at Durfee High last week too. So
really,
yeah, I guess he came out. It was Eddie Money did a big charity show at Durfee High School, and I guess from what I was hearing, he came out, did 3 songs, the PA system broke, and he left.
Oh my God.
So,
well,
so he may be there performing at halftime to make it up for everybody.
Before we switch gears, I do want to give a hot chocolate update.
Yes.
I was telling Brendan's about this.
This is the part of the show that we have.
I'm
This
sorry,
is
I don't have any
exciting.
hot chocolate updates.
We're gonna start.
I don't have any
Yeah.
announcer updates.
You
I
have
don't have favorite announcers yet. Or
He must have some serious
press
hot
box
chocolate in
guys,
Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, you have to try the hot chocolate at Wareham. It's usually pretty good. So I haven't had hot chocolate all season, and I'm like, you know what? I'm at Dartmouth. It's usually pretty good. I'm gonna go down there during halftime, wait in the line, get a hot chocolate. I wait in the line, ask for hot chocolate. The machine's broken. I'm like,
She pulls out the press pass and says, "Excuse me."
no. So then I said, well, okay, do you have anything hot, like to drink, like maybe
They
they
give
have
you a
coffee?
hot dog.
No. The lady said the whole they can't make anything hot. So I'm like, well, have you ever heard of a pot? Like I know they have those fancy machines, but it was chilly. I was cold. I wanted hot chocolate. And
what are we
then
gonna do come November?
You spoke that way to a volunteer at a high school football game?
no, I didn't. I was thinking
Okay.
it in my mind. But then when I
But
went
if
back,
you're watching,
when I
that's
went-
what she was really wanting to say.
and it was a long game too. Like I really could have used a hot chocolate in the second half. So then I went back to sit down, and then I'm looking around me, and there's people that had hot chocolate. The other concession stand across the field, around the corner, they had hot chocolate. You think they would have at least announced this on the
more
PA
you know.
system? So no hot chocolate report
She,
next week. Or actually, I'm going to vote. I think I'm going to vote this week. So
just gonna get to
make
the
sure the
point
hot
where-
chocolate
Well,
is
the hot
good.
chocolate report
Well,
is now they know which concession stand to go to.
And
So
also,
it's
it's
good
a
advice.
vocational
Yes.
school. They have a culinary
They
department.
might even have
so-
lobster bisque or something. They always have something really good.
I'm pretty sure that if they don't have hot chocolate at the concession stand at VoteTech, they will be able to whip
Stay
it up.
tuned for next week on the hot chocolate report.
I have nothing. So we'll move on to
Okay.
our next game.
So Durfee at Dartmouth.
Yes, Durfee at Dartmouth, 7 p.m. On Friday. Our next game is Dighton Rehoboth at Greater New Bedford VoteTech, 4 p.m. Laurie will be there sipping hot chocolate.
4 p.m. I think it's 7.
I'm sorry, I read the 4 next to it. 7 p.m. But Laurie will be there at 4 p.m.
Making sure there's plenty of
observing, the hot chocolate.
the concession stand.
So this is going to be a tough game for the Bears because DR, although they've looked mortal this season, they always are a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, DR, they suffered their first loss of the season, losing to Apponequet a couple weeks ago. But really, since then, they knocked off Somerset Berkeley, and then they beat Wareham last week. We were talking about this earlier. Kyle Rose returned the opening kickoff, for a touchdown.
He had a couple more touchdowns too, I think, too.
Yeah, they had I think it was 5 rushing touchdowns, and then they also had, punt return for a touchdown. So this is a Dighton Rehoboth team that really, I mean, they know how to get in the end zone. I mean, they can score. Dave Driscoll always has these kids ready. Really, I mean, I know that their quarterback usually can, I mean, he always seems to throw a couple touchdown passes. He didn't last week. But their rushing attack is so solid that they don't really have to go to the air with him. But this week, I think Voc Tech, I hate to say last week was they lost to Old Rochester. You look at the score, it was 35-12. But in that
started off close, though.
Yeah, the whole first half, Andrew was at the game, he was tweeting, in the whole first half, Voc Tech controlled the game. They ran, I think it was 31 plays. They ate 11 minutes off the clock. And then they had a couple turnovers, a couple big plays by Old Rochester. And next thing you know, they're down, I think it was 14-0. And then, they had to dig out of that hole. And they don't have the firepower to do this. They're a running team. They're a team that mostly, they're going to kind of grind you down to the ground. And when you're down 14-0, you have to kind of go to the air. So I feel like that game, if they didn't have those turnovers, it probably would have been, a little bit closer. If they had finally, I think one of them was even in the red zone. So, they had some mistakes last week. They can't have them against Dighton Rehoboth.
Right.
I mean, Dighton Rehoboth, if you want to talk about Old Rochester, they're our only undefeated team, in SouthCoast. Dighton Rehoboth is just as team, as Old Rochester. So they can't make those mistakes. And, Nick Richard, once again, he was kind of their star last week for Voc Tech. He had both of their touchdowns, both on the ground.
Both on runs, though, yeah.
Yeah, both on runs. So, I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get with Voc Tech. They're gonna run the ball, they're gonna run the ball, they're gonna run the ball. It's just a matter of, can they hold on to the ball? They don't want any turnovers. And, I mean, Dighton Rehoboth, I'm excited to see Dighton Rehoboth. I haven't seen them yet this year, and to see how they kind of rank, because I've seen Apponequet, I've seen some of the other teams. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of match up, because I know we're talking about, the A standings and the B standings, and the A standings are interesting because, Old Rochester's up there, Apponequet's up there, and then DR is kind of, right around them. We have the tournament coming up, so it's kind of, interesting to see who's going to make the tournament.
This is DR's chance to get themselves back in that conversation at the top, and then kind of not really control their own destiny, but if they can get a win over Old Rochester, then they'd be in pretty good position.
Yeah, especially because they got the win last week over Wareham, so, but it should be a good game. I know Buddy, when I came in earlier today, he was talking about how Voc Tech hasn't beat Dighton Rehoboth in, I want to say it was it's 19 years. So it's a long time, but, a few turnovers are on DR side, who knows, but it definitely, Voc Tech is definitely the underdogs going into this matchup this week.
All right, so that is Dighton Rehoboth at Greater New Bedford Voc Tech, 7 p.m. on Friday. And our final Friday game is also at 7 p.m. Bourne at Fairhaven. And this is a chance for Fairhaven to get in the win column, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think this week, both Wareham and Fairhaven have a shot at getting in the win column. Bourne finally got in the win column last week. They ended up beating Case. I think it was, I don't have the score right here, but they beat Case, I think it was 30-something to, I don't know if it was 6 or something like that. And Chad Marsh, I think we've heard this kid's name, I want to say since he was a freshman. I mean,
I think there was an older Marsh before.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like this kid's been around forever, either him or his brother. He carried the ball 30 times last week, and he had 267 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fairhaven, that's who you have to stop this week.
Right.
And they also had Tyler Benavidi. He scored 2 touchdowns for them. So they got a couple different guys that scored last week. They got their first win. I'm sure the Canalmen, they're riding high off that win. And, Fairhaven had a tough time last week against Seekonk. Another lopsided loss. I know their only points came from Cam Charette. I think he completed 6 passes, 121 yards, and he scored both touchdowns. One was on an 18-yard reception from Furtado, and the other was on a 2-yard run. So we kind of thought coming into the season Cam was going to be the focal point of the offense, and, it's proven that way, but they're going to have to, limit teams to less than, 49 points. I know they gave up a lot to Apponequet week 1. The Voc-Tech game, I think, was a little bit closer. I think it was in the 30s, if I remember correctly. But the defense has to start stepping up while the offense is kind of coming into its own. But Bourne just got their first win last week, so this is a team that is they should be in the game.
Should be a good battle. That's Bourne at Fairhaven, 7 p.m. on Friday. And then our only Saturday game this week, because both Apponequet and Old Rochester have byes, so neither one is going to really move up in the standings this week if they're off. But the only Saturday game is Upper Cape at Old Colony. That's at 2:30 p.m. And the Upper Cape team has been pretty impressive over the last couple of years as they've broken out on their own. They used to be with Bourne, but now that they've broken out on their own, they've been impressive. But equally impressive now has been Old Colony. I mean, especially with Jake Pringle under center.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, I told Buddy coming into the season, because I went to all the football practices, I went to Old Colony, and I saw Jake Pringle, and I'm like, Old Colony is going to be good this year. I think I said he was like a men against, among boys. I mean, just watching this kid play, he's just so talented. Whenever he has the ball, it seems like he can make something happen. This past week, he threw, 2 touchdown passes. And in overtime, he scored on the quarterback keeper. He also threw for the 2-point conversion. I mean, this kid does a little bit of everything, but I feel like, it's not just him. They have a team. Like in years past, we've always kind of said, well, depth. They'll have a couple injuries, and their top kids are pretty good. But once one of them gets injured, there's nobody to replace them. But he has that complete team, and that's why they were able to beat West Bridgewater, for the first time. And I think it was since 2001
since 2001. I don't think they've played them every year since then, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's a long time, and I think we were sitting here in the office, and I actually made a bet with Ed. I said, I really think Old Colony has a shot in this game. He says, well, I don't think they're gonna, be within 10 points. And I said, I bet you they're within 10 points. So he owes me a coffee, which I forgot about it. I was away this week, and I walked in. Ed says,
not a hot chocolate.
No, a coffee. Yeah, a coffee. So he owes me a coffee, and I said, I completely forgot about that we kind of said that. But, I mean, this is another game where, Old Colony should be in this. I mean, if not win this game. I know last week Upper Cape got their first win of the season. It came in overtime against Nantucket. John Dumont, he ran for 4 touchdowns, including the game winner. He finished with 216 rushing yards. So the key is stopping this kid, and really, Old Colony has Pringle. They have a couple running backs. Farias, I know he's kind of their leader every game. They got the receivers to, I think they're the complete package this year. So I mean, it would be interesting to see, what is this, week 5? After week 5, they beat, Old Colony to be 3-1. That would be awesome.
I think it'll happen. So let's do a final rundown here, because we blew our 30-minute.
That's all right. That's all right. We have a special guest over here.
Right. No, I talked too much. Not your fault at all. It was the
hot chocolate.
It was the 10-minute segment on hot chocolate. I think I did it. But
okay.
We'll go watch TV here.
Go back over the games. Friday, Martha's Vineyard at Bishop Stang, 6 p.m. And then all at 7 o'clock, we have Case at Wareham, Dighton Rehoboth at Greater New Bedford Voc-Tech, Barnstable at New Bedford, Durfee at Dartmouth, and Bourne at Fairhaven. And then on Saturday, a 2:30 game, Upper Cape at Old Colony. So we want you to tweet us while you're out at these games at SC_varsity. Like us on Facebook, SouthCoastVarsity.com on Facebook. Go to the website, SouthCoastVarsity.com. Keep tuned for other social media. If they invent something new, we'll find a way to put stuff up there for you. And that's pretty much it for this week. Anything else you guys want to add?
I'll probably be tweeting at you guys.
You definitely will.
Brendan Curie from the Case Wareham game. So at Brendan Curie, Brendan with an A.
Okay.
Free Wi-Fi at Spillane Field. I don't know if they turn it on during football season, but it's on during the gaming. So.
All right.
Nice.
Let's hope so. All right. Well, that does it.
Hopefully they got 4G. Right?
Yeah, they should.
If not, yeah, definitely. If that does it for this week's show. This is where I say that we will see you under the lights, and Laurie says.
And we'll see you in the end zone.
And if you want to add
Nobody told me I had to come up with a tagline, so.
How about
next week I'll have one for you.
How about near the concession stand? Yeah. Hot chocolate.
I'll be there tweeting.
All right, we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.